Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Coming to you from the Baker Law Group, Studio 107, it's SOL. Live, raw, and uncensored. Drew Baker. Shake
That
and Bake.
just happened.
Matt Dixon, the Iron Man. A podcast dedicated to protecting your rights by exploring the law, politics, and current events. You have the right to remain silent and listen or call in and become a part of the show. And now, here's your host, Shake and Bake.
Welcome to the SOL podcast. I am your host, Shake and Bake. It's nice to be here today. I'm going to start with just the basic introductions, and I'm going to skip you. I always go you first. I'm going to go to Special K today. Are you here and accounted for?
Present.
Excellent. And the Iron Man, of course, also known as AKA Master of Distraction. Are you here today?
Present.
Present.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Where's my cackle?
Yeah, do the laugh track.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. We've got something really funny over here.
I'm present.
It's really good. Oh, boy. Also master of the dad jokes.
That's
in
true.
a lot of ways.
That's true. I'm just a master of everything, apparently.
I think it's good at nothing, or good at everything, master of nothing, or how does that work?
I guess stop calling me master if that's your
all right
position.
We move on.
Goodness.
I know.
Lawyered.
And I'm sorry if I'm a little sleepy today. I just got off a plane. If any person jumps up in front of me when the plane door is closed to hurry up and get to the closed plane door again, I might lose my mind.
Oh my
Nobody
gosh.
has ever learned plane etiquette. You cannot leave the plane until the plane door opens.
Did anybody clap when you landed?
That did not happen today, although I wanted to clap because there was a nasty crosswind,
Okay.
and it was a pretty impressive landing. I will give them that.
So, I got back from Florida too.
Yeah.
Last week.
That's why we've been a little delayed, and we
Yeah.
apologize for having a little delay in between episodes, by the way. But
So I got my son with me. He's in the middle. I'm in the aisle. I look over at him as soon as we get to the gate. And then I look back over and I've got people I've never seen before standing in the aisle next to me because they don't get the etiquette, which is you wait until your row's turn to get up and get out and leave the plane.
no, you actually sprint in front of the other rows. I think you've misread the manual.
Oh my gosh. You
Or at
just
least
want
it
to trip.
seems that way.
You want to trip people.
Yeah, bonus points if you elbow them out of the way.
There's been very few scenarios where we're late to arrival, and there are other flights that are getting ready to take off that people need to get to their
Yes.
their other flight, and the attendants will say, if you're not on XYZ flight, please stay in your seat so these people can get off the plane immediately. And in those instances, I'm good with it. Otherwise, wait your turn.
Yeah, just sit down, okay? Just take your turn. It actually goes much faster if everybody just goes row to row. We digress significantly. I apologize.
Always.
I know. You can find us on iHeart, iTunes, Verbal, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and all other podcast forums that we're aware of. We want to send a special shout out to Bruce. We sent him some swag from the Steven Carr episode, and he was nice enough to wear the podcast hat, take a selfie, and get it back to us, which was pretty cool.
It looked good. He was
It
at
did
work,
look
right?
good. Yeah, he was at work.
Yeah, it's
I'll,
fantastic.
I'll ask for permission to post it on our Facebook page.
Yeah, let's do that. The title of the show today is Judge Not, Yet Ye Be Judged. That's an old proverb, and we'll get into why that's the title of the show today. But before we get to any of this, as always, we're going to have to play the dreaded disclaimer, get it out of the way, and then we're going to move on to the episode. We've got some fun stuff today, I will say, that's kind of out there. This is not stuff we made up. It's stuff that we're seeing in the news. It does have some legal, flavor to it in some ways, but there's also just a large flavor of insanity as well. So here we go.
Remember, the views and opinions expressed on this show are meant for informational purposes only and are not to be construed as legal advice. There is no way, in any way, that we are creating an attorney-client relationship.
Yes, that's always the case. No attorney-client relationship, but we want to thank our listeners. And this is a bonus episode on Season 3. We're going to start Season 4. I think the launch date for that realistically is going to be after the 4th of July holiday. because we're going to be out for that, and we've got some busy stuff. I have apparently become a full-time truck driver Thursday night through Sunday night, where I've gone to Maryland. That's only 13 hours with the Bay Bridge.
Shouldn't be 13 hours.
No, that's correct.
Yes.
It should be 8.5. But that bridge where all the Washington, D.C. folk like to leave and go to the nicer area and get out of Washington, they have to get over that every night and get there every morning. So it's pretty much the epitome of miserable. But anyway.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to start it up, I'm going to say right after July 4th, and get things rolling. Maybe I don't know, we'll do a pre-July 4th episode, maybe a post-July 4th, and try to do something on topic there. I think we're still allowed to celebrate July 4th. Can we do that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if we're allowed. I'm hoping. Kelsey, are we
Yeah.
allowed?
I'm not sure. I'll have to circle back to you on that one.
Thank you
I'll look
for
it up
circling
later.
back. I guess we need to circle back. No doubt about it.
We should probably now pivot.
Yeah.
To
Anyway,
our
Let's
topic.
pivot into
Yeah.
the topic. Yeah. So let's get started. I'm going to let Kelsey start off by, this is a recent news article that came out. She was nice enough to send it to me and Matt. I looked over it and thought, this can't be real. Like most of the stuff Kelsey sends me, I think this can't be real.
I'm attracted to the weird too.
Yeah. So
Oh.
what's this all about?
In Hall County, Georgia, some offenders who get vaccinated may have their sentences reduced. And the judge says that every shot in the arm is a service to the community. And the senior assistant public defender said almost all of his recent clients have been offered this deal.
So do,
Oh, wow. That's got to be a joke. That can't be real.
No.
So it's a community service type sentence, but instead of actually doing, community service, and for those of you who don't know what that really is, just to back up, generally speaking, you're not going to ever have to do community service in a larger, more like a felony type crime. This is typically something that is ordered on a misdemeanor. I'll give you an example. Do a little disclosure here. When I was in, I think it was at Ohio State, I got in trouble for maybe being at a football game and possibly having a cocktail a little underage. And I loved this idea. I think it was Judge Taylor said, here were our options. We could either pay the fine, which I didn't have any money. Of course, there's no jail time involved, but it was you pay the fine, or on spring break, no fine, and you go plant trees around Columbus for a day. I thought that was actually a really, nice thing for the community, and the crime wasn't so significant that it would have warranted much else than that. I didn't have any money, so I planted trees, but that's a version of community service, and this comes up a lot in misdemeanor cases. So that's what they're talking about here. But generally speaking, it involves some sort of working in the community. It might be a homeless shelter, it could be a church, it could be anything like that. And you're in lieu of jail time, you are given the opportunity to serve the community and go out and do those things. Apparently in Georgia, if you get the shot, that takes care of it.
So are judges allowed to do that? They can just make up whatever they, in their personal opinion, community service would be?
To some extent, the judges always have discretion. There are different guidelines, like on a DUI case, there's minimums and there's maximums, and the judge uses the discretion of the court to decide how much of this sentence that I can give, will I give, and that's based on a lot of different factors. Do you have, priors, for example, would be a non-mitigating factor. Maybe it's a mitigating factor that you didn't have an accident, so that's going to be considered, and you're probably going to fall in the lower end of sentencing. But the judge, contrary to popular belief, or at least, I think it's not being involved with the court system, which is good if you're a citizen and you're a law-abiding citizen. It's good to not be involved with the court system, but for those that think that judges make the decision as to whether or not a person should be guilty or is found guilty, that's the jury's job. The jury listens to the evidence and decides, okay, this person did it or they didn't do it. The judge then has the discretion to sit back and decide, based on the sentencing guidelines, how much am I going to give? And am I going to give the full amount? Am I going to give the minimums? And that's the discretion. And some of that can be like a community service type punishment, if you call it that, as part of the sentence. So I don't think community service in and of itself is odd. Do you, Matt? I mean, I think that I see that a lot.
No, but whether or not this particular sentence equates to service to your community is a whole nother matter.
Well, it's certainly debated, right? I
Yeah.
don't think that there's a consistent opinion of everyone.
Sure.
I think we could all agree planting trees or working at a homeless shelter is service to the community.
Well, and it begs the question, we talked about this ahead of the show, but so they offer you the ability to get the vaccine to be a good contributing member of society, but if you already got the vaccine, you now have to do the 20 hours? You don't get the option, or they consider it paid forward?
Yeah, that article didn't describe or
No.
there was
Any of
nothing
those
in there, right?
situations, yeah.
So my guess is, and this is absolutely nothing more than a guess, if they're going to give the credit before they've had the vaccine, and it's kind of like the cause and effect, take the vaccine, the effect is you get a break. I'm assuming this judge, if I'm the lawyer, I'm going to get up during the mitigation part of the hearing in front of the judge, and I'm going to say, my client's been vaccinated. And I think because they've been vaccinated, the only fair thing to do here is reduce the sentence somehow. And that may not be that maybe they don't do the community service. Maybe if it is a jailable offense and they were going to get 10 days, they get 7 days. However, now we've run into the same problem that we did on the Vax-A-Million and everything else. There are people that don't want to get the vaccine. It has nothing to do with the crime. It has nothing to do with anything that's really related to the underlying charges here. It's just they have a different opinion, which my opinion is they have absolutely that right, and not going to get the benefit. So you maybe do spend time in jail because of the fact that your community service isn't an option, or even if you don't go to jail, maybe you do 10 hours and you don't have to do 10 hours, Matt. How is that fair?
Well, and Kelsey brought up a couple of points earlier. Special K.
Well, this one actually just came to me now, but so if I go and I do community service, not because it's court ordered, but just because I want to, then if I ever do have to go to court for something, can I argue to the judge like, hey, I've got community service hours in the bank. I already do this stuff anyways. Because that's kind of what it sounds like you're saying when it's like, oh, I already did the vaccine. So then the judge is like, okay, well, you're free to go. So that just sounds really dumb to be able to get off on something because you did some good stuff in the past.
Arguably, you'd want to present that to the court to let them know you are a good member of society in the first place, so that when they go to sentence you, they might take that into consideration. We're talking about it a little bit differently. Generally speaking, we want it to apply directly to, this idea that you're giving COVID shots in lieu of 20 hours. Let's just hypothetically say COVID shots in lieu of 20 hours of community service. If I just got my COVID vaccine 3 weeks ago and you're about to give me 20 hours of community service, shouldn't I get the same standard as this other guy? Not, I did community service for the past 6 years for whatever club or whatever I was doing, and shouldn't I have that in the bank? I'm talking about much more specifically, recent, because the vaccine's recent anyway.
It is, but I just don't, this is
just
it's a
dumb.
health decision. It's a health decision that it's almost like saying, if you agree to do something that's, absolutely health related, that has nothing to do with, I get it. So, for example, in a DUI case, we're going to put you into counseling for alcohol, or we're going to make you go to 15 AA meetings. The charge and that sentence are consistent. They make sense. There's a correlation between the two.
Mm-hmm.
There's no correlation here, arguably, because again, this is a health decision that's going to alienate the folks that don't see it the same way. And I mean, there's been, again, I cannot stress this enough, for all the ones that think people are crazy for not taking it, from a lawyer standpoint only, you have to remember this is one of the only times, if not the only time, the pharmaceutical companies, the biggest companies in the world, the wealthiest companies in the world, have been given a pass. They cannot be sued. I don't know how to say it any other way. I mean, if that doesn't scare you, then you need to read up on other things, other drugs that have been released that have completely altered the state of a person's existence in every way, if not killed them. But if they're still alive, and guess what? There were billions of dollars in settlements paid out over those drugs. But in this instance, there's going to be zero. There's going to be zero. They can literally say, we have no responsibility. But hey, it's safe. Go ahead and take it.
And they're guaranteed hundreds of millions of customers.
and dollars by the government
Well, yeah.
outside of that. I mean, and it's just that alone, if nothing else, I don't want to play on people's morals. I don't want to play on people's religious beliefs. I'm just saying, practically speaking, as an attorney, that is something that should be factored in before you decide to go that direction. And in this case, you're saying, okay, the judge is going to give me a pass, just like, if I make a medical decision that maybe I really don't want to do because I'm a little concerned, but if I do it, I won't have to do community service, and I might not lose my job, because if I do community service, I got to take a week off, and my employer is not going to like that. So you know what? I'll just get the vaccine because that'll be my community service. It's just, to me, it's ridiculous. Like, you should never bring a health decision into the courtroom that way. So that's why I thought this article was just could not be
laughable.
True. Could not be true.
Special K, what's the underlying reason here? Why are they doing this?
They're trying to get their vaccination numbers up. I think it's statewide in Georgia, 38% of people have had at least one shot. But in these surrounding counties, it's like 25 to 28%. So they're trying to boost their...
They're trying to bring these counties in line with the rest of the state averages. So,
Yes.
the question for me is, you look at the Ohio Vax-A-Million sweepstakes. It was applauded at the beginning and supposedly had a large impact, but flatlined after that.
That's what I just heard.
So
the numbers are way down.
So is Ohio next? Is Ohio next to bring in these types of things to help persuade people
The persuadables.
force them?
Oh, the persuadables.
When you're going through hell, keep going.
It could happen.
So I
happen.
did a little bit of research as well, and looking at the state of Ohio. If you look at the Ohio Department of Health, their COVID-19 dashboard shows about 47% of the state has started the vaccine. About 5.5 million have been vaccinated. So about half of the state's population.
11 million is what we have.
We have 10.8, almost 11 million people in the state. So
we're almost at 50%.
Almost at 50% in the state. I think it's maybe 43% have been fully vaccinated, but we're at about half of the state.
That doesn't
at least
surprise
started.
me either, that there's like half the people that think, you know what, I'll do what other people tell me to do. And there's half the people that think, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make a decision on my own. And that's probably pretty consistent with just sales in general. Some people react to high pressure sales. Some people step back and are completely put off by that. So to me, I'm not surprised by that number. Did it say anything about what's happened since the Vax-A-Million in terms of the last few weeks? Like what is the fall off?
The dashboard doesn't show that. We'd have to go back and do
Didn't
a ton
do that
more
much research, did he, Kelsey?
Oh
Nope.
my gosh.
Did say
I'm serious here. I said I did a little bit of research.
Well, what are some other things that you found in the state of Ohio? Because this really plays into that, whether Ohio's next. What are some other kind of wacky sentencing decisions or sentences that judges have given to people based on, I guess, whatever they did? Or I remember one, and I don't know if you got this one. We didn't talk about it before the show, but I feel like I remember one. It might not have been Ohio, but the judge made somebody stand outside with a sign, like on the road, and apologize or something. I don't remember all the. Do you remember that, Matt?
I do.
I don't remember the details, but it was something crazy like that, and it got some news. But what'd you find, Kelsey?
Matt actually looked this one up. Sorry.
Oh, so he did a little bit more research.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
See?
Mhm.
All right. So look, there's actually a judge in Northern Ohio that's got some international media
Ooh.
attention. There's a magistrate in Paynesville, Judge Michael
What a pain in
Cicconetti.
the- sorry.
Yes. What a Paynesville.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's got tons of interesting and unique sentencing that he's done over the years. Recently, he ordered a woman to 8 hours of community service in a trash dump. She was convicted of neglecting her dogs by letting them live in filthy conditions. So he said, in lieu of jail time, you can go sit in the smelliest, most disgusting area of the garbage dump for
So
8
you
hours.
See, this is what your dog experiences.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
got
fits the crime,
Fits
right?
the crime.
Fits the
Punishment
crime.
Fits the crime.
There's a Coshocton municipal judge as well in 2006. 2 young men were convicted of throwing beer bottles. So he essentially, he called it Ohio's Judges Got Talent.
What?
He allowed them to choose their outfits, but made them dress up in drag and walk down the main street of their town.
No way.
Now
How
again,
long ago was that?
2006. Now again, I said
Oh, yeah.
made.
You might have got away with it
It's
back then.
offered in lieu of
Yeah.
jail,
Yeah.
jail time or community service.
And maybe, I don't know the answer to this, but to your point, maybe that's how they're able to get like around whatever judicial canons say they can't go beyond certain, certain parameters.
It was a choice.
It's a choice at that point. So yeah. I
So
can see that.
not to be undone, Cicconetti does it again. Okay, our Paynesville Municipal Court judge comes out, and a lady who had stiffed her cab ride
Okay.
was sentenced to 30 days in jail or
Dun, dun, dun.
a 30-mile walk. Now, this was because the cab fare that she stiffed the cabbie on was on a
Was 30 miles.
30-mile
Yeah. So
drive. So he made her do a 30-mile walk.
I'll be honest. My opinion is I kind of like these
Me
creative
too.
sentences
Me too.
because they do fit the crime, and it is kind of like, all right, so you put this person through X, so now you're going to go through X too and experience it, see what it's like. It's kind of an eye for an eye type sentencing, I guess. But
Yeah,
So
I like
he-
this a lot.
I'd love to just kind of get a summary of all of his unique, because
Yeah, but
there's
he's
some
got
other
time.
stuff in here about requiring a woman who had abandoned her kittens in the woods. He made her spend a night in the wild alone without food or water. He made
that's brutal.
Yeah,
Like
he
borderline
made
barbaric punishment.
he's made offenders dress up in chicken suits or spell out apologies and using coins, like all kinds of crazy, weird, fun stuff that
that-
he's done. Now he actually has cited that it has dropped his recidivism rate.
You know what? Again,
Yeah.
I think
believe
that
it.
I
Yeah.
would believe it too, because if somebody experiences it, realizes, boy, that really sucked. I don't want to do that. I mean, I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
Versus say what's generally, at least Franklin County being a big county, there's so many judges. It's hard to really have a reputation as a judge in a large county because for example, in Franklin, there's 16 judges. So your case can bounce to a judge that maybe is not really we all have personal things that bother us. There are judges that are really offended by theft. There are judges that are really offended by drinking and driving. And it might be that they had a family member pass from a drunk driver, or, maybe they were stolen from at some point in their life. So they really hate like employment theft. And all those things do kind of play into their decision making. I think in the smaller counties, it's much easier to create a certain reputation to kind of maybe scare off people from doing things they shouldn't do because they have that one judge in the county and everybody knows that judge is a little wacky. He does some wacky stuff, so maybe that's more effective in terms of keeping people from maybe, jumping and doing what they probably wouldn't do one way or the other if they knew that it could go to anybody. But if it's going to Paynesville, it could be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Truth is, it sounds that way.
Where
That's
you
really
can't
funny.
just pay a fine or, I can go volunteer for 10 hours. Like, before
Yeah.
you do something that this might come back at you in a very unusual way.
I
So
heard-
let me think twice before I mistreat somebody else.
I heard about what happened to Johnny.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen to me.
No, I don't want to walk 30 miles.
So there are plenty of examples in Ohio, but of just unique, weird, or wacky sentencing.
Yeah.
But I think that they do show that they relate back to what it is that they were guilty of in some way, shape, or form. To some
Yeah.
degree.
There's a correlation.
Correct.
Right.
And there's no correlation here. It's more, again, advance the cause of pushing the vaccine on people that maybe don't do it otherwise. It's kind of like the Vax-A-Million. There may have been people who thought before, I'm sure there were, that thought before the Vax-A-Million, I'm not going to get vaccinated. I just don't want to do it. And then, albeit in my opinion, a ridiculous set of logic that I might win $1 million when you're talking about the numbers and the percentages and statistics of
No,
the
people say
probability
it's-
of that.
People say you have a better chance of winning the Vax-A-Million than the regular lottery.
You do.
I hear
You
that
do.
all
You
the
actually,
time.
You actually do, but that's still
That's
a
not
shot in
what I
the
was
dark.
gonna say. I don't think that's going to change my mind.
So there were the other two issues specifically related to whether or not you want to get the vaccine could be medical or religious. So again, you're in front of a judge who says you can get the vaccine or you can spend 5 days in jail or 30 hours community service, whatever. And you say, well, that's not fair.
Right.
You're offering other people this vaccine. I can't take this vaccine either for religious reasons or it'll kill me.
Yeah.
As a medical reason. Give me something else that, give me another way to give back. It just seems.
And again, the article doesn't address this. My guess is the lawyer is going to talk to the judge, in chambers or otherwise, and say, Judge, my client can't do that. There's a religious reason why there's no way they can take a vaccine. So, and if that happens, my guess would be this judge is a reasonable judge and is going to say, okay, I know that that's a constitutionally protected situation there, and I'm not going to give them that option, but I will take it into account and try to do something that's more creative that still gives them the benefit of the doubt. I'm more concerned about the people that just don't want to do it. They don't have a religious reason.
Yeah.
They don't have a health reason. They just don't want to do it. They don't feel comfortable.
I know that I would be fine. I would be fine in that scenario because I identify as vaccinated.
Well, we all do. All three of us are identifiers and persuadables. Mm-hmm. So we can use both of those.
So as soon as he were to levy that down, say, you know what? No problem. I will identify as being vaccinated as soon as you hand down that order.
Yep. I'm with you. No, that's very interesting. I love the topic. I will say briefly, I was complaining about this to my other host here earlier. One of my biggest pet peeves about doing criminal work when I did it is that counties differ so significantly in what will happen to you under certain circumstances. So a DUI in Franklin is going to probably have much different penalties, less severe than, say, a Licking County DUI or a Fairfield County DUI. And I can promise you that I talk to any criminal defense lawyer, they'll tell you the same thing. That does seem somewhat unfair too, because there's no uniformity in how the sentences are really being applied. It's more serious here, it's less serious there. This is not to tell you, hey, if you're going to get a DUI, make sure you get it in a particular county. But the reality is there are some significant sentencing differences. Everything from will you go to jail to how long is your probation? How expensive is your probation? Because that's on a county to county basis. Some of the probation you can be put on in say like a Delaware County is very expensive. So these are all things that, don't really have the uniformity or the consistency that we might like in judges, but they're just a reality.
Well, I would, talking about the vaccine, it makes me want to circle back to a discussion we had previously.
Circle back.
Yes. I'd love to do that.
Please let me read this quote for this one.
Well,
please.
all right. So we're going to take everybody
talk to
back.
Members of the legislature all the
I don't
time.
even know how that happened.
We talked to the speaker. We talked to the Senate president.
I'm not sure what that was.
Oh, there we
Talk to
go.
members. I think he just keeps creeping up into the show.
Probably.
I think DeWine just
He
keeps
really
coming
wants to
back.
come on.
He misses.
Yeah.
He's
he
right
really wants
across
to
the
come on.
street, isn't
He
he?
is,
Let's
but
go.
I think you're going to tell us he's busy right now. He's got some.
Well, we
ideas.
want to get back to a prior episode that we had with Morgan Masters and talk a little bit about the requirements on employees by employers with respect to the vaccine.
Okay.
Yes. So she had told us that employers could require you to get your vaccine, that was not a HIPAA violation. But so the Ohio State legislator, in an effort to remedy that, they've proposed 2 bills that would prohibit vaccine mandates. One of them is specifically prohibiting the COVID vaccine. There's another one that's prohibiting all vaccine mandates.
All right. So what you're saying is that if somebody works somewhere, this bill would allow them to keep their job if they say, I don't want to take the vaccine.
Yes, you can't be required to show proof of vaccination, and your employers can't hire or fire you based off of that.
Okay. How does our buddy DeWine
Mike-
handle this?
Mike DeWine says he is very much against this bill because, and I quote, for the state government to be telling private businesses what they can do to make sure their workforce is safe and that their customers are safe, I think that's a big mistake.
Whoa. What
Hello.
happened there?
Where was that attitude when?
You mean during all of the
During
COVID
the
shutdown?
last
year
year.
and a half, you mean?
Yeah.
So maybe there was a change of heart here?
But that's what bothers me, though, is you don't explain how you have a change of heart.
Yeah, no,
People can change their mind, but he's acting like that's the common sense way to do it. We've always done it this way.
That's
That
ridiculous.
pisses me off.
That's really
Pardon my
ridiculous.
French.
No, I can't believe that those words would actually come out of his mouth after telling every private business what they could or couldn't do. And
Yeah. You're not allowed to be open.
I'm sure there was a PR person in the back room just shaking their head saying,
rolling their
how are we
eyes.
going to fix this?
Yeah, we gotta pull this thing. How do we get
They don't
it out?
have people that do that beforehand. Like, I don't think Mike DeWine's going out there talking off the cuff. They've got to practice this.
Oh,
Like,
really? Because I think a lot of people would say that the Vax-A-Million wasn't really run by a ton of lawyers before they decided to do that. Just seemed like a great idea that
Let's
day.
just
Even
do
if
it.
it's
Round
PR
table.
people, though, even if you're not talking to
No.
lawyers, you're talking to an image consultant.
I don't
you're
really
talking to
look
somebody.
at the legality of the situation.
At least it wasn't hypocritical. That's the good news.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's the most hypocritical thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I'm sure all the business owners that were allowed to have 25% capacity and things like that would really love to know that he has had a significant change of heart. Perhaps because he was somewhat forced to, early in June when the legislature said, "No, you can't do that anymore. We
Yeah.
get to make that decision." Which, that I'm happy you found that, because I think people kind of need to be more aware of that, especially with elections coming up. I think people should consider that that's the two platforms that this person can swap from. And those are pretty significant issues. So,
Yeah, and you, like we said, you can change your mind on stuff regarding all this COVID stuff, the science, the data. It can change, but you should be able to articulate what you now know that you didn't know before. What made you change your mind? Why are you looking at it differently now? And they never do that. They just tell you, this is a really big mistake if we do this. Or, in the case of Dr. Fauci, you're attacking science if you criticize them. They don't ever explain what that new data was that caused them to change their minds.
So we will get back to everybody as soon as we hear the outcome of these two bills and see what happens in the state legislature.
I'm sure that he will strongly. It seems like he opposes everything.
He said he won't sign them.
Yeah, I mean that's what I assumed, because he was going to not sign anything else and veto things. And
He called Republicans selfish.
he called what?
The Republicans who proposed it, he said they were being selfish.
Because they wanted to do what it is that he was doing?
I was going to
Yes.
say, is there some bad blood from what happened with the June order? Perhaps, like, I don't know. Maybe there's still some bad blood there, I would guess. But that is unreal.
What a petty little Betty then.
That is very, very hypocritical, to say it mildly.
Yeah, I don't know who he thinks is going to vote for him if he's running for re-election, but I will be curious to see how that plays out.
Me too. Well, I think that was a fun little run through, and we wanted to do a little bonus episode. We missed being in here, and we appreciate everybody listening as always. Do you have any other incredibly interesting information for me today, Matt? Anything in your personal life you'd like to share?
No, nothing
Okay.
pertinent.
All right. How about you, Special K? Anything you'd like to?
Nope, never do.
Never do. She is a
Closed
closed
book.
book, to say the least. Well, until next time, I appreciate everybody. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to get this out on iTunes like we always do, and all those other podcast forums, and look forward to doing season 4. I can't believe I went back through the episode list of how many episodes we've done. I was shocked. It's really getting up there, and we appreciate the support and the subscriptions and just everything. It's great. We really enjoy doing it. We thank people for the comments and especially the compliments. Those are always nice. And going forward, we'll hope to get more of those. And again, never hesitate to sign in, send us a message about something you want to know about that might have a legal spin to it, but might be current in the news. I think the next season, we're going to be very current on our episode and do our episode planning, maybe even the day of, if not the day before, but as to what we're going to talk about based on those current issues, and then bring the legal tie-in so we can remain the SOL podcast. So we're looking forward to that. But until next time, this is the Shake and Bake signing off of the SOL podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to SOL. Join us next time on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and iTunes. For additional information or questions related to your legal matter, contact the Baker Law Group at 614-228-1882. That's 614-228-1882. Be safe, know your rights, and follow the law. This podcast is adjourned.